If you've ever run a website, you definitely know that sinking feeling. Your site is slow, it's lagging, and you have absolutely no idea why. Well, today we're going to dig into one of the most common and most frustrating culprits behind that mystery. Right? It's a classic problem. Your code seems fine, your traffic is what you'd expect, but for some reason, your site is just crawling. So what's the hidden factor here? You'd be surprised how often it's your digital neighbors. Think about it like this. You're living in an apartment building with paper-thin walls. Now, you can be as quiet as a mouse, but if your neighbor decides to throw a massive party at 3 a.m., guess what? Your peace is shattered. That's exactly what the noisy neighbor problem is in web hosting. One website's crazy activity can slow down everyone else sharing that same server. Now, this isn't just some vague annoyance. There's a technical name for it, resource contention. And it's really simple when you break it down. It just means that multiple websites are all trying to grab the same limited pool of computing resources at the same time. When one site gets greedy and hogs more than its fair share, everybody else pays the price. So let's look at what they're all fighting over. Okay, so there are 4 main battlegrounds. First, you've got CPU contention. That's your neighbor's site running some crazy script that eats up all the server's brain power. Then there's memory bandwidth. Think of it as everyone trying to cram their stuff onto one tiny shelf. You also have disk I/O, which is basically a data traffic jam in the hallway, usually caused by a neighbor hitting their database really hard. And finally, network throughput. That's like the entire apartment building trying to stream 4K movies on the same Wi-Fi connection. It just clogs everything. So you might be wondering why sites built on a CMS, like WordPress or Drupal, are so vulnerable to this. Well, it's baked into how they work. Just loading a single page can fire off tons of database queries. Plus, they're always doing stuff in the background, scheduled tests, re-indexing for search, rebuilding caches. All of this creates these sudden, huge spikes in resource demand, which makes them kind of needy tenants in a shared building. And that brings us perfectly to the most common type of hosting out there. We're going to call it Level 1, the shared apartment. This is where most websites start their journey, on platforms like Acquia or Pantheon. Now, why does almost everyone start here? Well, the perks are pretty obvious, right? It's cheap, because you're splitting the bill with a bunch of other people. It's super fast to get online. You don't have to worry about managing the server. The hosting company does all that. And you usually get a bunch of cool tools that make your life easier. For a lot of sites, it's the perfect place to start. But, and this is a big but, there are some serious downsides. The number one problem is that performance variability. Your site's speed is totally at the mercy of your neighbors. You also get very little control over the infrastructure. And if the whole platform has an issue, your site goes down too. But maybe the worst part, you have almost zero visibility. When your site is slow, it's nearly impossible to figure out why because you can't see what your neighbors are doing. So as your site grows and gets more traffic, that shared apartment starts to feel, well, pretty cramped. It becomes a real headache. The logical next step is to move out. Welcome to Level 2, building your own house. This is where you move to your own dedicated infrastructure on a cloud platform like AWS or Azure. And this right here is the absolute key difference. On a shared platform, it's a total free-for-all. Everyone's fighting for the same resources. But with dedicated infrastructure, you get your own isolated, fenced-off environment, your own virtual private cloud, your own databases, everything. And that means your site's performance is finally predictable. The noisy neighbor problem? It's solved. The advantages here are huge. You get that predictable performance we just talked about. You get complete granular control over your entire environment. That isolation also means better security and makes things like compliance way easier. And when it's time to scale up, you're not fighting with anyone else for those new resources. However, as the old saying goes, with great power comes great responsibility. And in this world, it also comes with a ton of complexity. You are now responsible for everything. Building it, securing it, maintaining it, it can be a massive operational burden. And I'm not kidding about the complexity, just look at this list. This is the manual setup gauntlet you have to run. You're configuring networks, provisioning Kubernetes clusters, setting up storage, load balancers, monitoring, security pipelines. It's a full-time job for a team of specialists. Doing all this by hand also creates these 2 huge, sneaky risks. The first is configuration drift. That's when the real-world setup slowly drifts away from what's written down in the documentation, making every change or update a roll of the dice. The second is tribal knowledge, where all the critical info is stuck in the heads of just 1 or 2 people. If they leave, you're in big trouble. So what if you want the performance of your own house, but you don't want to become a full-time construction crew and maintenance team? Is there a third option? Yes. Welcome to Level 3, the Managed Estate. This is the solution that gives you all the benefits of dedicated infrastructure without all the manual headaches. The magic behind this is a technology called Application Orchestration. Honestly, the best way to think about it is like having a master blueprint and an automated construction crew for your server environment. It's software that uses code to build, manage, and optimize your entire dedicated setup, so you don't have to touch any of that low-level stuff. And what's really cool is that orchestration is about way more than just speed. It gives you perfect parity, meaning your development and production environments are identical, which kills all those well-it-worked-on-my-machine bugs. You get amazing features like preview environments for every single code change, smart cost controls, automated security. It basically puts superpowers in the hands of your developers. Okay, so we've walked through the whole journey, from that first shared apartment to building your own house from scratch to moving into a fully managed estate. Now we're at the crossroads. Let's talk about how you can make the right choice for your website. And let's be really clear about this. This is not just a technical choice. It is a fundamental business trade-off. You're balancing cost, risk, and performance. Because unpredictable performance isn't just an annoyance. It leads to frustrated customers and lost revenue. This table really breaks it all down. A shared platform is great for startups and small sites, but you have to accept that performance variability. Manual dedicated gives you ultimate control, but it comes with a huge price tag in both cost and complexity. And then there's orchestrated dedicated, which hits that sweet spot for growth companies that need predictability and speed without the massive operational overhead. It's all about balancing cost and ease of use. So, as we wrap up, I want you to think about your own situation. Take a hard look at where your website lives right now. Is your hosting a solid foundation that's ready for growth, or is it a future bottleneck just waiting to happen?